always remember, from light comes zombie takeout. And from zombie takeout, light.
What's up? Welcome to episode 319 of Zombie Takeout.
Zombie takeout.
The B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listeners submitted. This is from Twitter, from Bodo, surprisingly.
Are you sure it's the same Bodo?
Yes, it is. In fact, his first tweet was, back to tweeting. I'm sure everybody's tired of my voice by now.
Not as tired as they are of mine.
Well, yeah, or mine. He went on to say, I was trying to give examples of World War II movies, but I threw it to Sergeant York, so I ruined that lie or reason.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. Yeah, he's right. York is,
World War I?
Yeah, I think so.
By the way, some great World War II movies you must watch, John. The Great Escape, Stalag 17, which is the basis for Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah, they were lampooning it.
Yeah. I think I knew that, or I knew of Stalag 17, and obviously they were in Stalag 13, which was a joke. He also pointed out a possible two-parter that we missed. Dummy here thought you were saying Gothica. I was waiting for Halle Berry, but Gothic sounds like a must-watch by me.
Don't.
Well, first off, the Gothica Gothic thing I think would have been fun just to play with the names. And As far as Gothic, I think we're pretty clear about the movie's defining feature. The fact that it just completely throws what little plot it has out the window midway through. And if that appeals to you, then watch it.
If you liked the Meatloaf Bonnie Tyler videos from the 80s.
Yeah, it does look very 80s.
And want to see like an hour and a half version of that, there you go.
Yeah. And finally, in reference to the trailer for this week's movie, he said, never played WoW, so I thought the movie wasn't bad. Friends who play WoW and saw it hated it. Which, of course, brings us to this week's movie, which is from 2016, Warcraft. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by the Lion's Pride Inn. Try a pint of Dwarven Stout, a shot of Badlands Bourbon, or if you're hungry, our famous Stormwind Brie. And if you're level 85 or above, wash it all down with some Lordarak Lambic. You can even take some cooking classes and learn first aid. It's all at the Lion's Pride Inn in picturesque Goldshire, conveniently located right down the road from Stormwind, right across from the Forge and the new flight path. Tell them King Lane sent you.
And also brought to you by Goldshire Orthodontics. Overbite? Underbite? Goldshire Orthodontics welcomes Azeroth's new green-blooded population to restore that flesh-eating grin.
I love that. That was funny the second time.
All right, so what we have here, a world that, well, I mean, there are two worlds, of course.
Well, three actually so far in this universe, but anyway.
We begin, and I was just like, oh man, I hope they keep with this. We begin with this world of orcs. Mm-hmm. They're getting ready to invade this other world. But our hero, or what's kind of looking like our hero at first, has some trepidations about this because, well, he's seen the effects of the magic being used on the world, and he's... well, maybe he's thinking that this shit is just not going to end.
It's lime green. And anytime you see anything in a movie or a video game that's lime green, it's bad. Nuclear waste, Vel magic.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. I was going to say Halo. It wasn't that. Well, yeah, maybe. Everything was bad in Halo.
Lime green is bad.
Things that glue purple, things that glue blue, green. You were fucking dead in Halo. But anyway, so they're getting it ready to invade, but he goes along with it for the good of his tribe and the good of the orcs in general. Then we cut over, of course, to the other side, and really, I was disappointed. I would have given this 6 brains if they had just told us from the point of view of orcs. If the orcs were the main characters going, hey. But no, we have to have humans because it's a $160 million budget film.
Well, and also in the games you can play either side.
Well, right. Yeah, that's true. So the humans, things are a little weird there because they have this guardian that no one has seen in years.
6 years he's been in a coma.
Yeah, he just has been away in his little house playing around with stuff for 6 years. But you also get the impression there wasn't much of a threat immediately
No.
going on
It was a very peaceful time.
Until these orcs appear.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, they come to him in a panic. There's this renegade magic user wizard who, well, I guess he failed out, so I guess he wasn't a full-blown wizard at this point.
He's a full-blown wizard. He's trained, but he was part of the Kirin Tor, which is a group of elite wizards. He chose to leave.
He's kind of lower level, though, you get the point.
Yeah, he wasn't, one of the elders, obviously.
Like, he has a long way to go before,
mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, and you have your magic user, the first, 5 levels, you're not really doing much.
No.
You're throwing a dart, you're taking out a dagger, maybe you get a chance to cast a spell every couple weeks or so.
In WoW, pretty much all you can do are fireballs.
Until, of course, unless your DM really invents situations. Well, you need to open this door for some reason.
Right.
But so yeah, you get the feeling that he is in the lower levels, and he has a ways to go before he can. But they give it away that he's going to be the guardian. There are no, I mean, this is not a spoiler. They pretty much say the first that he appears that you will be, but not yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, take that for what you will.
Well, the movie was made effectively for fans by fans. So Khadgar was already a known character to most of the people who went to see this movie. We already knew who Khadgar was going to become.
Okay, so that would explain why they wouldn't hold that.
Yeah, exactly.
A secret.
Khadgar's a big name in Warcraft.
And also, what the deal with the Guardian?
Yeah,
I mean, that's another thing. Like, from a non-player point of view, selling that he's been corrupted pretty much halfway through, it kind of kills the dramatic tension.
Well, it's kind of earlier than halfway.
It is, isn't it?
It's when he pulls the fell from all the orcs in Elwyn Forest in that first confrontation. He pulls it out of the ground from the through the ground. He pulls it out of the orcs, and that's when Khadgar is kind of questioning him at first.
Well, right. That's the thing. He's of course the guardian is not really protecting. He is the one who's summoning because he has been possessed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this isn't really a spoiler because they're pretty upfront with this.
Yeah. By that halfway, it's definite. Yeah, he's corrupted.
Oh yeah, yeah, right, exactly. So, I mean, it's something they could have saved for later if they wanted to. But anyway, let's finish up this plot here.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, orcs come piling through, but they manage to figure out how to hold them off and have a battle to the orcs first try to pursue for the renegades.
Yeah.
Renegade orcs try to pursue for some peace.
Yeah, and an orc defects to the human side
to try to end this crazy cycle of just destroying worlds and exposes their chieftain. Well, not their chieftain. This
one of the chieftains.
This I'm trying to think of what they were calling the
Blackhand was the war chief.
Yeah, so it wasn't Blackhand. It was the main fell user.
oh, Gul'dan. He was a warlock.
Yes, they were exposing him for what he was.
Mm-hmm.
They made orcs very Klingon-esque also. And
yeah. Well, every orc in every version of this kind of fantasy is the same, big and green with tusks.
Right. And yeah, the twist is they're more Klingon in this, where there is an honor code.
Oh yeah.
And yes, he is not a warrior of honor, and but that doesn't make a difference in the end because he has all the power, and they have to fight with humanity, and hilarity ensues.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to point out right off the top, I've been playing WoW for going on 10 years. I'm kind of a lore geek. I did a little study for this. This is actually the first movie I've pre-gamed. I watched a bunch of 4K clips last night and some behind the scenes stuff. I researched a lot about the First War, which is where this takes place. I'm probably going to geek out a lot. By contrast, which is what makes this interesting, you knew nothing about Warcraft before watching the movie.
Right. I mean, yeah, I played Dungeons and Dragons for a long time. A good like 12 years or so.
Yeah.
But that was a long time ago in itself. And I even tried to think of like, does it always have to be orcs? And I was looking at some of the old monster manual stuff, and really, what are you going to do? You're going to do goblins and hobgoblins. You're going to do gelatinous cubes. I mean, no, you're going to do orcs.
And in Warcraft, the orcs kind of lead the horde, which is the new horde, which is a combination of other races on Azeroth in Warcraft. They're the kind of the leaders in the way the humans are the leaders of the Alliance.
Right.
So it is always kind of going to be orcs versus humans. They do move on to the demons, who in this case are the ones who are pulling Gul'dan's strings.
Right. I mean, that's the other, of course, facet of Dungeons and Dragons. You can go into the undead, and that's been done to death too. Probably even more so than orcs. So.
These aren't even undead. The undead are a factor in WoW, but these are demons.
Right.
These are straight up demons. The backstory that they don't get into is a demon named Manaroth convinced Gul'dan to have 12 of the orc chieftains drink his blood, which is why some of them are green and are possessed by the fel, and the brown ones didn't drink. And that's what led this whole thing off.
They weren't using drinking of the blood. They were using just a life force sort of thing.
Before it all happened, before the movie takes place, the orcs drank blood. That's why some of the orcs are green. But that's also what corrupted them, and Gul'dan was corrupted. He was promised power, and really Manaroth, who is the demon, is the one who had the power, because he's pulling Gul'dan's strings. And I think that's one of the issues with the movie, is it was so made for fans that it doesn't explain a lot of that. It doesn't even really explain what fel is.
I don't think it, well, you get what fel is after when you're into it. But I don't think it really needs to go that deep into the backstory of the demon. I think that works fine as it is. I mean, at first I was just wondering, wow, we've seen a lot of this stuff already, with orcs and...
Yeah, a lot of it is fairly standard fantasy fiction.
But yeah, and the more I thought about it was, I mean, you can't say elves are overdone either on our side, or dwarves are overdone, because they're just if you're going to do a fantasy,
you're going to rip off Tolkien.
Them. Yeah, there's just no escaping it, is what I determined at the end. You have to, you're either stuck with the orcs or the goblins and hobgoblin teams.
Right.
Which, I mean, they get a little too cheesy. Orcs are nice, big, badass, creatures.
Yeah.
So they make perfect heavies.
And I was wondering while watching this if the Hulk was based on an orc. Big, green, burly.
I don't know. I mean, he had better teeth.
Well, yeah. Now, I think the thing that WoW does a little, or Warcraft, I'm going to make that mistake because WoW is what I play almost every day. The thing that Warcraft does differently is that it shows both sides. The orcs just aren't faceless evil.
Yeah.
And upon coming on board, Duncan Jones, the director, immediately voiced his displeasure at the script, which he stated was the stale fantasy trope of humans are the good guys, monsters are the bad guys, with Blizzard's approval, who make the game, and who are also looking to change the story. He altered it so that it was 50-50.
And how fantastic would it have been if it was just all orcs? I mean, how amazing would this movie have been? Is there any other film that you could think of?
Yeah, true.
That would have done that?
Well, you can do that in the game. I mean, you would do that in the game most likely. You'd play one faction.
Of course, but that's like, Grand Theft Auto. You can take the other, the other
side. You play a bad guy in GTA. Yeah, that's pretty much the game.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. But
possibly the only game I've played as much as I have WoW.
But having a movie following the orcs,
the typical villain,
politics of the orcs, I mean, that's that would be so ballsy.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be Warcraft. You need both sides. That's the whole point.
Kind of want Star Wars to do something like that, where it's just, I mean, maybe the Thrawn movie is just going to be about, the inner workings of the Imperial, army.
I think maybe that's why I love MMOs so much, is because you can play either side. You know, in the Star Wars MMO, you can be an Imperial.
Yeah.
You know, and get that perspective. Moving back to the movie. I only had really a few issues with it, which is why Bodo's tweet surprised me, because his friends who play WoW hated it. I loved this movie. I'm just going to say that. Not surprising to you, because I raved about it a couple weeks ago when I first saw it. I only had a few minor issues. Starting with the opening voiceover. It really wasn't necessary. We get this opening monologue from Duratan.
Yeah, I guess there's this thing about, making an epic, you feel like you need a narrator at the beginning. And
at least it wasn't a long crawl like Lord of the Rings. You get a nice little fight scene and a little voiceover. Really unnecessary and kind of contradictory when he says there has been a war between orcs and humans for as long as can be remembered. He was there at the beginning of the war. Unless we're hearing Gulf Duratan from the future, how is it
kind of
as long as can be remembered? I think it was his spirit talking from the future, but it still didn't quite make sense.
Because at the end, he talks again about his child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the part that didn't make sense, because if he cut it off before they cut to him, when he talked about, I was just looking for a way to save my child, or whatever the line was, it would have been fine, because it would have been random orc talking about the war from the distant future. Also, I think the orc CG was a little iffy, although it looked better in 4K, oddly.
Yeah, I was going to say that is the effects in this are suspect.
There's a lot of CG.
Yeah.
Possibly more, well, I won't say more than any movie because there are the prequels, but there is a lot of CG. It looks better in 4K for some odd reason. I do like what they did with their faces, because their faces are completely mocapped.
But I think the CG, it's probably not even as good as the prequels. And think of how long ago the prequels were. But then again, that was Lucas, and
it's ILM, yeah.
Painstakingly go over that shit. This wasn't ILM?
I don't think so. This was Legendary Pictures. I don't think they have the money for ILM. And this was a $160 million budget. I'm sure the prequels, for their time, were way beyond that.
I think he saved a lot of money in the prequels by doing them in his own shop.
Yeah, he owns ILM, so he did save a lot of money there. But like I said, they look better in 4K for some odd reason. And I saw split screens of all of the orcs. On one side you had the actor and one side the character. And they do look like their characters. They did take the actors' features and incorporate them into the face of the orc. Incidentally, Black Hand is played by Clancy Brown.
Yes. I didn't realize that until looking it up tonight, because, it's just, he's buried in CGI.
Well, he's buried in CGI, and he's not doing his voice, because I can tell his voice a mile away. Did you catch the other well-known actor, the other much better-known actor? The only real name in the movie. Alodi, the spirit inside, or I'll say spirit, incorporeal being inside the giant cube that Kagar talks to.
Oh, who was that?
Glenn Close.
Really?
I thought I recognized her. I looked her up on IMDb. It's Glenn Close. She was uncredited in the movie.
So, yeah, the special effects weren't great, but they weren't enough to really take you out of it.
Yeah, they did the job. My only real complaint is the orcs looked a little plastic.
Like they just didn't blow me away, but they weren't awful either.
Right,
they weren't like Slipstream or something like that. One of those older movies.
Now again, rolling back to the beginning of the movie, there's this character named Garona who was half orc, and she's defects from the orc side to the human side after she's captured.
And she's pretty much a slave girl, so why the fuck?
Yeah, on the orc side, she's a slave, yeah. And they don't explain that. She's half orc and half Draenei. And the Draenei are the blue people who were being used to power the gate at the beginning.
Oh.
They were the other inhabitants of Draenor, which is the planet that the orcs come from.
Yeah.
Or the world that they come from. The writers of Warcraft really make an effort to try to keep it fantasy and not go sci-fi. So they don't want to say planets, but they're planets.
Well, of course. And that's the best explanation in a fantasy, too, when you have them coming from different planets.
Right. So she's half human, or half orc and half Draenei, which is why she was enslaved. And the only tip-off to her heritage is that she can understand a Draenei woman who's caged. and trying to talk to one of the orcs. Now, and from a pure WoW geek standpoint, when they come across the portal, we actually saw them in the Twisting Nether, which is that sort of void that they've come through.
Yeah.
We never see that in the games. In the game, when you go to the Dark Portal, you get a loading screen, and then you're on the other side. There's no... It's like Stargate. You're on one side, then you're on the other. So it was really interesting to see what happens in the middle.
And of course, one of my suggested titles was, the Lord of the Stargate. But,
yeah. They did take, I'll admit, the Dark Portal was taken from the Stargate.
Dimension doors existed in Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, for a long time, yeah, true.
Before
well, this is a bit more than a dimension door.
Well,
dimension door is a spell that you need to know where you're going to pull off. Well, it just kind of pops you into another place.
They're permanent dimension doors too.
Okay. I'm only really familiar with the spell.
But you're right. Yeah, it was mostly you could create a temporary one through a spell.
Yeah, it's really just a teleportation. Not this big, effectively Stargate.
Right.
Also, it was really nice to see them slipping in for the Horde at the beginning when Duratan and Draka, his wife's son, is born. Goel, as he ends up being called. Well, in the movie.
Yeah.
Gul'dan raises him up and says another warrior for the Horde. In the game, whenever you finish a quest, the quest giver says either for the Horde or for the Alliance, depending on your faction. So that was a nice bit of fan service. How obvious is it that the son is a major character?
Yeah, in the future, of course.
Yeah, he becomes important. That was pretty obvious. Yeah. Because he's a random kid, born to these two orcs, and he's given kind of a big send-off.
Well, yeah. I mean, come on. He's given the Moses send-off.
Yeah, effectively. And that's kind of who he is. He becomes known as Thrall. When he's picked up by the humans, he becomes enslaved and renamed Thrall. Yeah. And he becomes war chief, and he's really the one who gets closest to bringing peace between humans and orcs. And he's also the only war chief who left office alive.
Huh.
After the Cataclysm, which was this big event that destroyed most of Azeroth, he goes off, he's a shaman, and he goes off to help, heal the world, and turns over the position of war chief. The only time that's happened without a death. Also, I loved how Stormwind looked. Because it's so much bigger than in-game. Stormwind is the human capital. Okay.
But, I mean, a lot of it just looked like, kind of like a Star Trek, planetary world kind of thing. Maybe a bit more detail than that, of course.
It looked like it does in-game, but bigger and with a lot more houses. Because in the game, the capital cities are basically the size of malls.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to walk around them, and that's basically what they are. You go there for the auction house, the bank, and for profession training. That's about it.
Well, right.
They're basically malls.
You never want to create a game where, you're just lost in the town.
Right.
I mean, there were some older games where you kind of were like, wow, man, really? Mm-hmm. I'm back here again? Like Bard's Tale. Yeah. Or like the Commodore days.
But yeah, you don't go to the capital cities very often once you get out of the low levels.
Yeah.
But, of course, an actual capital city would be huge.
Of course.
And the one in the movie was huge. I just wish we could have seen more of Ironforge, which is the Dwarven capital. We get a brief glimpse at the beginning.
Like, Washington, D.C. isn't all that big.
Well, yeah, it's the mall is about it.
It's kind of this compact, and I mean, it's like it even shrunk by 25% of what it used to be. Because it used to be a full square, perfect diamond square.
But in a medieval sense, capital cities had to be gotten around in on horse at best.
True.
Didn't have engines at that point.
Yeah.
Now, there was an interesting term that was used for Khadgar when he first shows up.
Was it Anakin Skywalker?
He's not Anakin. He doesn't go evil at any point.
I was thinking of his acting ability.
I kind of liked the performance. I didn't have a problem with him. He was the typical young kid,
Oh.
But when Lothar captures him, or catches him in his office, he takes him down and calls him Spellchucker.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting slur. Because he's really looked down on. I get the impression mages are looked down on.
As they usually are.
Yeah.
I believe we had one party where people referred to them as the magic loser.
Well, they're typically glass cannons. They always are glass cannons because that's kind of the job.
Yeah.
That's why you have a tank.
Yeah. So, I mean, performance-wise, yeah, he was probably the weakest link, I would say.
See, you say he was the weakest link. That's interesting because he was kind
Yeah.
of one note. He didn't have a lot to do. For me, the weakest link was I'm blanking on the actor's name now. Lothar. Travis Fimmel, that's his name.
Yeah, he was. I haven't quite decided. He was there. He did his job.
Some of the time I liked him. He was kind of, the how do I put it? He was kind of a Indiana Jones character in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, he was this good old boy kind of thing. There was a lot that was mixed in with that character.
But at points, he just forgot to act. Particularly in a couple of scenes with Paul Patton, who played Garona. I don't know, the chemistry just wasn't there. Again, my only other complaint was those two, Paula Patton and Travis Fimmel. Their performances were just kind of spotty. At least with, I don't know the actor's name, but Khadgar, he was consistent. You may not have liked what he did with the character, but he was consistent throughout the movie.
I mean, I would think Travis Fimmel and Paula Patton and Ruth Negga, they were just there. They were serviceable.
And Ruth Negga has like 2 scenes, so it's okay that she was just kind of there.
True.
Like 5 scenes maybe.
She didn't have a whole lot to work with.
She has a small part, so.
My favorite though was Medivh. I loved Ben Foster.
I absolutely loved what he did with the character. And I had my doubts about Ben Foster when I heard he was cast as Medivh, because I had seen him in much younger roles. And I had no idea if he could pull it off, but he was amazing.
He did seem too young for it, but in a sense,
I think they aged him up a little bit.
But in a sense, he was perfect.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about it.
And I loved how quietly he played the role.
Exactly.
Because in fantasy fiction, it's real easy to go over the top.
Right. I mean, you're not doing Shakespeare, but you're trying to give like the Shakespearean quality to it. You're trying to use, a melodramatic voice.
Right.
Instead, he's just kind of interesting choice.
He plays it very low key.
I mean, I just absolutely love that.
Which, when he turns, is really sinister. Because he starts turning and he's still very low key. He doesn't go arch until the very end, in the final fight scene.
And even his arch is really just, he is more makeup.
Yeah, true. He full on turns into Manaroth.
He is still, the same character almost. He's batting for the other team now.
Right. Now, with regard to everything being scaled up, there is one aspect of that threw me a lot. At one point, they go from Stormwind to a town called Goldshire to find the king who was at the inn. And in-game, Goldshire is just down the road from Stormwind. I timed it. You can run from the Stormwind gates to the inn in just under a minute and a half. It's a very short run. In the movie, there's this whole riding sequence.
Yeah, you can't have a world that's only a couple blocks.
Yeah, I know. It's logically, it makes no sense for the movie that it would be larger. It just seemed like, okay, Goldshire's just down the road. What's this with the riding sequence? And there was also a nicely crowbarred in nod to the fans, or to the players, I should say. During that riding sequence, we see a Murloc, which is this sort of humanoid fish creature.
I tried to look for it, and I did not even notice.
Okay, that's interesting, because to me it seemed to jump out. Maybe because I was expecting it, or at least I knew what it was. They're kind of unofficial mascots of the game. I find them horribly fucking annoying. A lot of people like them. But they have in my notes fucking Murlocs. Also, from a player's perspective, great to see the Lion's Pride in live action. I have spent a lot of time in that inn. I know it very well. And they nailed it. It was perfect. I think the reason I'm so in love with this movie is I have lived in this universe for a decade. So seeing it, come to life, in live action was just mind-blowing. And to that end, I can't be objective about it. I think I should say that, if it wasn't clear enough.
Now, what about? I mean, in the game, they use guns as well.
Oh yeah, guns are a thing.
I take it,
Hunters.
yeah, that would have been blasphemous if they just introduced
No.
guns.
Guns are a thing. Mostly used only by hunters. Which are the WoW equivalent of rangers.
Are they referred to as boomsticks there?
Yes.
Uh,
Boomsticks are usually the cheaper ones, that and blunderbuss. But yeah, there are rifles that are called boomsticks. So yeah,
that's a beautiful Evil Dead reference.
yeah, yeah. They definitely ripped off Evil Dead in Warcraft for it. Although, what year was Evil Dead?
Uh, I think that was Army of Darkness, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or
Army of Darkness was Boomstick.
I
Which
think that was 89.
oh okay, then it did come from there because the first Warcraft game was 94, and I don't know if Boomsticks were in that, but if they were, it still could have been taken from Evil Dead.
Uh,
Yeah.
92.
Oh yeah, so it's either way. They probably did take it from Evil Dead.
Of course, I mean, I had no doubt in my mind that Evil Dead,
Mm.
this is my boomstick.
Yeah.
you know, the original.
Yeah, I just
use of
wasn't
it.
sure if the timing worked. Did you catch the Wilhelm?
No.
In the Elwyn Forest fight, somebody gets hit and you hear a Wilhelm. They always stick out to me. I also loved how Dorotan was riding the horse. Because, you've got this ginormous orc on a horse. He had his hands on the horse's head.
One thing I liked about this, though, was that people got bruised and cut,
Mm-hmm.
and they stayed that way.
Yeah. Or had their hand blown off.
There was no, prettying up the lead actor,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
He
for
had
a
a
scene
scar under his
later.
cheek from Go.
Yeah, I mean, he got, fucked up and he stayed that
Mm-hmm.
way, or realistically healed a little bit up,
Yeah.
but not like, oh yeah, he's ready to go for to do a cover photo now.
Uh-huh.
I had a new headshot. No, I like that
Mhm.
they kept it that way.
And that actually confused me, the scar, because Varian Wren, Lane's son, who is like 5 years old in the movie, or so thereabouts, the timeline's a little iffy, has
Yeah.
a similar scar. Varian has a scar right across his eye, similar to Tyrion after the Battle of Blackwater. And I thought maybe at first that Lothar was Varian, and then I realized no, he's too old. He's too young to be Varian. Varian is the kid in the movie who Lothar says goodbye to on the way to the fight, or the big battle at the end. Which kind of questions the timeline, because this is about 25 years before Warcraft, or World of Warcraft starts.
Okay.
And Varian already has a teenage son by that point. And he looks seriously about 5 years old in the movie. And I think I might know why Bodo's friends who play WoW might have hated the movie, and this kind of gets to what I was talking about with Varian. They do make some changes. I'm not going to get into all the detail, but Lane's wife is not in the story at all. The reason why Garona kills Lane is different. She was forced by Gul'dan to do it in the lore.
Yeah.
I prefer that she made the choice herself. Also, Dorotan and Draka's story is a little different. They go to talk to Orgrim Broomhammer, who was the war chief by that point, to
Yeah.
get rid of Gul'dan, and then they're killed by orcs who are loyal. In this case, Dorotan goes up against Gul'dan in ritual combat, which I kind of prefer. It's a nice tense moment to give them some direct aggression,
Yeah. People need to start letting go of source material, kind of,
Well, you know how I am. I'm usually obsessive about that sort of thing. But then I found out that Chris Metzen, who up until retiring last year was the senior VP of story and franchise development for Blizzard, received a co-writing credit. He was there to basically make sure everything was okay with the lore and to
Yeah.
kind of protect the story. So if Metzen signed off on these changes, I'm okay with them. They are, effectively canon at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, also a little backstory as to why I'm so excited about the movie. It was first announced in 2006.
Oh, right. We kept talking about this throughout pre-production.
I started playing in 2007, and that's when we first saw the first piece of production art, which I don't even think made it into the movie. Because it was Norgercell, which was never shown. And then it was initially scheduled for 2009 and then delayed to 2011. However, by Comic-Con 2011, the film was still in the treatment stage. In 2013, Duncan Jones took over for Sam Raimi, who was originally attached.
Sam Raimi would have been incredible in this, but Duncan's cool.
I don't know. Sam Raimi's created horror, certain aspects. The Gul'dan stuff he would have killed in. I don't know how he would have handled the human side. But point being, we have been waiting for this movie for 10 years. And getting teased and teased, so.
It's like Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, it's also the highest grossing video game movie of all time.
Really?
It made $433 million. Although still considered a disappointment because it cost $160 million.
Well, the problem is that it did not make much in the US.
Yeah. It did really well in Asia, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, China loved this movie, but in America, it is considered a bomb here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think it only grossed it was very low. It was way lower than the budget. I don't think it made the standard 200 million that things are expected to gross every time here.
Yeah. Oh, another reason I was disappointed with Familla's performance, when Callan dies, his son.
Yeah.
He just kind of stands there watching blankly, which is fine. He's in shock. I would have bought that. But then he kind of sneers for a second. And then he goes back to the blank look. I don't think he quite knew how to play that scene.
Well, he's trying to go to the the orc that he's going to get him for it. But
but it was just a quick sneer and then back to blank. And if he stayed blank, I would have been fine with that. He just watched his son get killed. Like, he's in shock. He doesn't really react. That's fine.
Why did you do that?
Yeah. Though I was glad that the romantic subplot didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they set up a thing with him and Garona. There's a deleted scene where they do shag. Thankfully, they don't really do anything with it in the movie, except aside from some flirting and some glances.
I was going to say, when could they have?
It was when she was consoling him after Callan was killed.
Which is, I thought that's what that was leading to, and
they cut it off.
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, that's why they cut it off.
The kid just died. Wanna fuck? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, the life-affirming act is a thing in fiction. A lot of fiction people do have sex after death, but in this case, it really did take away from it. And I'm really glad Jones decided to cut the scene where he did.
Yeah.
The only one of the deleted scenes that I would have preferred to see in the movie was one where there were a group of orcs, including, of course, Dorothan and Doomhammer, sitting around talking about the Fell, which I think gave their perspective on it very nicely.
Oh, yeah, that could have been used.
Yeah. The rest of the scenes were random, exposition and just extensions on other scenes that weren't necessary.
And I love towards the end when Lothar comes into the rescue, but too late.
Yeah.
He doesn't go for any survivors. He goes for the king's body.
Yeah. Well, because Lane was like a childhood friend of his. They go way back.
Sure. But, you arrive at a battle. The other side's ass is getting kicked because they were holding this ridiculous position.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were covering the escapees.
Well, right. There could have been somebody alive still.
That's true. Yeah, there probably was. Because, the battle was still going on when Lane died.
Yeah. Instead, it was pure Python. No, perhaps I could just, save my friend's body.
Well, they were setting up the showdown between him and Blackhand.
Right. But I'm still alive, sir. No, I must take my friend's body instead.
Mm-hmm. And I liked how he won it.
Perhaps you could save me.
How Lothar won the ritual combat. I'm not going to try to say the word. With Blackhand, because early on he tells his son, "They're stronger, be smarter."
Yeah.
And so Blackhand goes running at him. He just runs toward Blackhand, falls to his knees, goes between Blackhand's legs.
It was a little too quick, maybe even.
Yeah, maybe. But it was basically a one-shot. But it was a clever one-shot that really kind of called back to what he'd told his son. Yeah. And he was avenging his son, so it was a nice touch.
You also get the sense that, it's kind of like if you're brawling Mike Tyson or
Yeah, yeah.
something, if you don't finish him quickly,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
might not last.
Yeah. Lothar was a bit of a rogue, and that's kind of, and I don't mean rogue in the sense that Dorothan went rogue, but a
Yeah.
rogue in terms of the class. You know, he
Right.
was stealthy and subtle, and that's how rogues fight. It's take them down as quickly as possible because you don't have a lot of armor.
Well, right. He wore armor though, which
At some
is
points
very
he did, some
unrogue-like.
points he didn't. You know, when they were scouting the orcs, they just had leather armor on. They were very rogue-like there. But with the final battle, I like that, you know, it was going well, and then all of a sudden going very badly, and then he shows up and you think they're going to come back, and it was very back and forth.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the lore, who's going to expect the king to sacrifice himself?
Right. But it made perfect sense.
Oh yeah, because Blackhand was coming toward him, nothing was going to stop him, and either both of them die or he dies.
I mean, it was a very good heroic death.
Yeah. And I love that the movie doesn't have a happy ending.
Well, right. I mean, of course, it's unfinished because they left room for further. It's kind of...
And he could have pulled the whole Star Wars thing where, you know, he gives the first movie a nice happy resolution just in case, which is what Lucas did with The New Hope.
Well, I mean, the problem is when you call a movie The Beginning.
Yeah.
I like to call it the Remo Williams effect.
Fair point. Yeah.
You're almost begging me, you know, what if it isn't?
Now, I was okay with, like I said, all of the changes, except for the ending. Because in the lore, Stormwind gets destroyed, and the humans flee to a kingdom called Lordaeron to the north. In this case, Stormwind's fine. I would have liked to have seen Stormwind destroyed. I mean, it would have tacked on more to the movie, I guess, which was already 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if it was all that necessary to destroy it, but I mean, they could have easily had the battle take place near there to have done it.
Mm-hmm. That, and I would have liked to have seen Khadgar's hair go white when he finishes off Medivh. Because that's what happens in the game, and that's how in the end he has white hair when you see him in the game. So it would have been nice to just have that little change happen.
Or he could have just yelled, "No!"
All right, so on to sequels and remakes, since we were just talking about that.
On to sequels and remakes.
With the film story leaving Warcraft open to possible sequels, because there were 2 more wars and more games, of course, Jones has expressed interest in a sequel to the film, likely to be adapted from Warcraft to Tides of Darkness, the second game in the franchise. Given how it did over here, it's kind of unlikely, unfortunately.
I've heard rumors.
Oh, really?
Recently that there could be a second one. I mean, because of how well it did in China. I mean, they were very leery about doing it, but I
certainly hope so.
I didn't save it because I just assumed you'd seen it too.
I did not know that. It wasn't. Well, I mostly just check IMDb, but they're not IMDb, Wikipedia. But that's very encouraging.
Details emerged, but still not confirmed. Is like the headline you see. Revenge of the Guardian. Revenge of Gul'dan is the working title, I think.
It's a working title, so. And the beginning is not a great subtitle, so.
Actually, that might be a fan movie. No, a teaser trailer for a possible movie, so that might not be it.
Sounds like a fan film.
Cinema Blend has, and GameSpot both have titles, pretty much the same thing. That there are details for a sequel out there. Jones wants to do it, of course, but it's not confirmed that it's actually
because they're worried about the money.
Yeah, because really, in the U.S., it only grossed like $40 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really low for a U.S. release. Yeah, $47 million for the U.S. However, worldwide, we're talking $433 million. So the rest of the world,
loved it.
Made almost $400 million alone.
And I think Jones did what most people don't do when adapting a property. Because when you do an adaptation, you have to serve one of 2 masters. You have to serve fans of the original or the general public. Most served the general public for obvious reasons. Jones chose to serve the fans. He made the Warcraft movie that Warcraft players and fans want to see, or most of us anyway.
He still made a movie that made sense, even
Yeah.
if you haven't played the game.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, because I was surprised how much of it you got. Maybe because of your D&D background.
Maybe, but I mean, there were some nods to it there too. But I think it does stand on its own. I mean,
well, it's unescapable. Whenever you do medieval fantasy, you're gonna rip off Tolkien, and whenever you turn it into a game, an RPG, you're gonna rip off WoW or D&D.
Right,
it's unavoidable.
D&D ripped off Tolkien.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, the mechanics and the classes and the races are gonna be either Tolkien, and there's gonna be references to D&D. And the mechanics are all D&D.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen more races involved in this.
Well, at the time, there weren't many known. Because I was hoping for a little bit more humor. Because in the game, there's a ton of pop culture references and humor. Yeah. But that mostly comes from the gnomes and the goblins. The gnomes weren't discovered at this point, and the goblins were trading, but they weren't featured in the movie. I guess they were really not necessary.
But yeah, think about it. The elves and dwarves were only in
very briefly.
Very brief 2 scenes.
The elves, I don't think even had any lines.
No, they just sat there kind of.
But I mean, the game is called Humans versus Orcs, or Orcs versus Humans, so they really kind of did focus in on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to Brains.
On to Brains.
There were some issues, but it was so good, so faithful. I can't even detract a half brain. I'm going 5.
And I definitely recommend this. I mean, it has there's some suspect performances, some suspect special effects, but I think it tells a good story. So I'm going 4.
All right. And what have you learned?
Always the green slave girl, huh?
Yeah. And I learned that it's possible to make a great video game movie.
Yeah, this could be the greatest video game movie of all time.
Well, just with what we've seen, okay. If I recall correctly, the only 2 video game movies we've done so far are Prince of Persia and Blood Rain 3, or the Blood Rain movies. And I think we gave Persia and Blood Rain 3 brains each, or thereabouts. They were better than average. This blows them out of the water, obviously.
I mean, it's not saying much that it's the greatest video game movie of all time. But it could still be the greatest video game movie of all time.
And I think it's probably going to be the greatest one for a while, and at least until if the sequel happens.
Because, I'm not even sure what kind of video game really translates into a good movie.
Well, I think that's what makes Warcraft unique, in that it's based in a story.
Oh, I know which one. Those Bond games.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right, so until next time, we'll be reviewing Mazes and Monsters. This is kind of a 2-parter leading into a trilogy, because this is kind of the RPG 2-parter leading into the Moral Panic trilogy, of course. You've been desperately awaiting Mazes and Monsters just as much as I've been waiting for Warcraft, I think.
We have a number of tribute episodes that we're putting on hold.
Yeah.
We're putting the tributes on hold now. That's sort of the point we're at now.
We're doing the trilogy first, and then we've got tributes to Aaron Moran and Jonathan Demme. Yes, we're doing an Aaron Moran tribute episode. The movie was already on the list. I was kind of amazed by that.
Couldn't believe it either, but yeah, we're doing an Aaron Moran tribute.
And the Jonathan Demme tribute might lead to a trilogy. I brought it up. We haven't decided. It's kind of the inevitable trilogy for us.
It just might be too much.
Possibly.
To quote Captain Kirk, but too much of a good thing.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all the listeners we have, but more would be better. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I don't remember what it was. I think there's one after Escape from Tomorrow.
We have so many movies.
Somewhere around 320.
Movies to do.
Or no, next week is 320. Somewhere up, I don't know what it's up to. One or two after Escape from Tomorrow.
We're getting closer and closer to 2018. That's really what it comes down
to. Pretty much. And of course, the recommendations list. Obviously, I knew I was going to recommend it. I'm very happy that you did as well.
I really was not expecting
Yeah.
Josh when I came into this. So like, whoa.
Well, because when we talked about it, you had said basically, because you have an extensive history with D&D, you basically know what the movie's going to be.
Yeah.
But WoW is a different property. I mean, yeah, obviously there's borrowing, a lot of borrowing, but
That was pretty much what I expected in that regard. But usually for a video game movie, there isn't much in the way of characters. And this had it. It was very surprising and a very pleasant surprise.
Of course, you can email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-DTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged.
I'm not sure what what they could do to themselves here.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
We're all getting out. Medivh will cover our retreat.
Well, you gotta pause between the last zombie takeout and light.
Yeah.
Always remember, from light comes zombie takeout. And from zombie takeout, light.
I was recording that, so we'll just go with that.
All right.